Could we have up, please, 726956? Could we go to page 20? To paragraph 216. This is a document that you wrote about Mike Chitty when you were a manager, but it refers here to events in 1984. Throughout 1984, the Southeast Animal Liberation League, specializing in large-scale forced entries to vivisection laboratories, was an ideal vehicle for acceptance into the ranks of the more security-conscious ALF. D.S. Chitty spurned this opportunity. The writer, on the other hand, having recently entered the field, took it and provided intelligence that led to the arrest of 12 leading SEAL activists at Wickham Laboratories. He now ponders over D.S. Chitty's private comments to him at the time concerning tradecraft. In short, the writer was reprimanded by his senior colleague for reporting prior knowledge of the laboratory raid insofar as he was allegedly being negligent in respect of maintaining cover. While indignant at what he perceived to be an unjustified professional slur, he did not see fit at the time to question in turn D.S. Chitty's loyalty or motivation. Having been reminded of what you wrote as a manager, having regard to what you told us a moment ago about whether a report I showed you was your intelligence or Chitty's, can you help me with whether, on the one hand, it was your intelligence or whether it was Chitty's?
I don't think there's anything in this extract which I'm reading, I think, for the first time in a long while. I don't think there's anything that conflicts at all, really, because the report that I wasn't sure, well, the report that I thought was perhaps an amalgamation of intelligence from me and from him, it's what we would call, post-event intelligence. I think whatever the terms and the tone of this report, which I think can only be fully understood in its context, but I think it's I think I can, stand by all of what I've said to you this afternoon. I don't think this really argues against that.
Can we take that down now, please? We'll be returning to the context in Tranche 3. For now, I'd like to ask you some more questions about Jackie. Jackie has said that, described you making a beeline for her. Did you do that?
I don't think I did. No, I don't think I did. I don't think I would have done. I can recall a friendship growing. I can recall incidents that we both found humorous, that perhaps in a group of 8, perhaps a group of 8 people travelling to a hunt sab. I'm the driver. Jackie might, of her own volition, might choose to sit next to me in the front passenger seat, and the others are far less comfortable in the back. That in those are the sorts of environments where we became close friends, and found that we enjoyed each other's company, of course, as well as sharing the interests that brought us together, and I think as previously, I think a sexual relationship arose from that. I think it was a mutual attraction or decision. I think, well, I'd better pause, I'm sorry.
Did you tell her you were single?
Yes.
Did you tell her that you were or had been in a relationship with CTS?
I think I may have referred to that. I'm not sure that I would have necessarily mentioned CS. I forget. Sorry, the
CTS.
CTS. I'm not sure whether I would have mentioned a name, but I might have quite easily mentioned a recent relationship.
Back to your evidence about the van. Did there come a time when you dropped Jackie off last?
Well, I can't picture that, but I'm sure that may well have been the case.
And was that deliberate on your part?
I can't recall now.
And was it at that point that you went to her accommodation and the sexual relationship began?
It may well be. It would certainly be something, something similar to that, but it may well have been the two of us. That may have been, our agreement to do that.
Did you take her to a Lebanese vegan restaurant in Stoke Newington Church Street?
Quite possibly. Yes, I can't recall the type of the restaurant, but yes, I think so.
Was that before or after your relationship became sexual?
I can't honestly recall.
Did you go to the restaurant more than once?
Yes.
Did you go to more than one demonstration with Jackie before the relationship became sexual?
Yes, if we were to include demonstrations, protests such as the one at Hackney Town Hall, and hunt sabs, I'm sure, for sure, there would have been quite a few events that we attended together.
When the relationship did become sexual, did you address your mind before having sex with Jackie to the fact that you were a serving undercover police officer and thereby deceiving her?
Probably not in those terms, but I never lost sight of the fact that I was, I was still Bob Lambert, and however well I compartmentalised two lives, I never lost sight of that, even if I may have become engrossed in the role while I was playing that role.
If Jackie had known who you really were, would she have consented to sex with you?
At that time, no, I'm sure she wouldn't have done.
Did you give any consideration to that before having sex with her?
I don't think I did.
Were you having a sexual relationship with CTS at the same time as Jackie?
No, I'm pretty sure that my relationship with CS had come to an end before my sexual relationship with Jackie started.
Did there come a time when Jackie found out that you'd had a sexual relationship with CTS?
Only in the way that I've just spoken about, that I think I may well have told her that I'd recently had a relationship, a sexual relationship.
Did you
Recently.
make any effort to hide from other activists the fact that you were in a sexual relationship with Jackie?
No, I don't think that I did.
Once the relationship had become sexual, is it right that you would meet perhaps 3 or 4 times per week?
I can't recall now, but certainly no more than that. And I'm sure there would have been weeks when it was much less than that.
I'm interested in an average.
Yes, well then, I would think perhaps 2 to 3 times. There would have been a point, I'm sure, where maybe 2 or 3 times a week we would meet.
And Jackie developed an emotional attachment to you, didn't she?
Yes.
Did you tell Jackie that you loved her?
Well, I don't recall, but I think I probably did.
Put another way, she says you did. Do you have any reason to doubt her on that point?
No.
Was there an understanding that this relationship was a monogamous sexual relationship?
Yes.
Did you use birth control?
I think so, yes. I think my understanding was that she was using a form of contraception.
How did you get that understanding?
It could only have come from her.
When did you get that understanding?
At the time we were engaging in a sexual relationship.
At the start or later on?
I can't be certain, but I would think almost certainly at the beginning.
Can you recall discussing birth control?
Not actual discussions, but I have a recollection that we did discuss it.
Did there come a point in time when she told you that she wanted to try for a baby?
No, I'm clear in my mind that that she didn't.
You are aware that her account is that she did do that, and
Yes.
you agreed to try.
Yes,
Is that right?
I'm sure that wasn't the case.
Did she make clear to you at that point that this was a real commitment?
No, not at all. Not in those terms, no.
On your evidence, you are relying upon a representation from her that she is using birth control. Have I understood that correctly?
Oh, could you just repeat that, please?
On your evidence, I am understanding that you are relying on a representation from Jackie that she is using birth control.
Yes, that's correct.
You do not use a condom.
Well, I don't recall using a condom in our relationship, but there was no there's nothing I remember that would suggest that I wasn't prepared to do that. I would have been quite prepared to do that.
You were an undercover officer indulging in a deceitful sexual relationship, weren't you?
Yes.
Wasn't that of itself, putting aside that it was wrong in the first place, wouldn't that of itself, though, be a very good reason for you to ensure there wasn't a pregnancy by using a condom?
Well, yes, that makes perfect sense today.
And you were, as we know, married.
Yes.
That was another reason to use a condom, wasn't it?
Yes.
She was, as we've discussed, about a decade younger than you.
Yes.
She'd had a tough upbringing. She was living alone. She was looking to you, wasn't she, for love, stability, and support?
Not at all. Certainly not on her account. As regards me being the assertion that I was encouraging her to have a baby, and no, all I can be sure about is that we had a very close friendship. We enjoyed each other's company, and it became a sexual relationship as well. But it was not first and foremost a sexual relationship. And the pregnancy, however negligent I may or may not have been, it was came as a surprise to me.
Why, in the light of all the factors that I have just pointed you to, didn't you use a condom?
Because I think at the time I was confident that she was using contraception, and that would be effective.
But we all know that contraception isn't always effective, is it?
It's not, no.
Did you behave in this reckless manner because you were not giving Jackie's well-being any consideration?
I was certainly giving it very serious consideration, and I continued to show that level of consideration during the pregnancy.
When did you find out that she was pregnant?
Early in the new year of 85. I'm not sure, January, February, I'm not sure.
What was said between you about the pregnancy at that point?
Well, very simply, I can recall Jackie telling me. I was very surprised. I think I, kept, to the extent that I felt anxiety, I think I kept that, or tried to keep that private. At the time, it was a lot to take in, but nevertheless, I think I showed her that our relationship, the fondness that we had for each other, that I would stand by her during the pregnancy and beyond, as long as I would be there to help in some degree in the way that I have described in my statement, and I think to some degree Jackie supports that. But I think where we really differ is in, I think, the this issue of me having being party to a discussion which was for her to have a child.
Did you tell her that you thought marriage was patriarchal?
I can't recall. It seems, it's possible, seems a bit unlikely, but I can't rule that out.
It would be in keeping with your anarchist persona, wouldn't it?
It would, but nevertheless, to talk to her in those terms, in those words, doesn't quite ring true.
I want to move now to management knowledge of the pregnancy. You tell us that you spoke to Detective Inspector Barber.
Yes.
Was that a conversation that you initiated?
I can't altogether recall that, but I think it would have been.
Can you help us with when this conversation took place?
I think it took place shortly after Jackie told me about the pregnancy.
Your witness statement tells us that the conversation occurred in a public house.
Yes, that's my recollection.
Why did you choose a public house to tell your immediate manager that you about the pregnancy and not a formal office setting?
Well, it wouldn't have been my choice. It may have been one of our regular Monday or Thursday meetings at a safe house, at which then sometimes some of management might go to a nearby pub that was deemed to be safe in SDS terms, and but I can't recall the actual day but that would explain the setting. Of course, the other thing is that I think I wanted to discuss it with him in a sort of off-the-record way, and he might, if, well, that's
to keep it off the record.
Yes.
What was said?
Well, I told him, and again, I mean, my best recollection is that I did tell him who it was, because at the least I had an inkling that that managers had some, well, were at the very least they were aware that I was very close to her from the SEAL raid reporting, if nothing else. So I'm sure that I did tell him who I was referring to, and that I believed I was the father, or the prospective father. I don't. Yeah. I mean, yes. I think there was discussion. I think about, well, could I be sure of that? And I mean, I suppose I couldn't be like 100% certain, but I was sure enough, I think.
And what was D.I. Barber's reaction?
I think, I think it was fairly defensive. It was, I think it was fairly limited in the sense just that, I'd have to manage the situation. That I can't recall beyond that much.
So let's be clear. D.I. Barber, at this stage, knows beyond doubt that you have had sex with Jackie.
Yes.
And he does nothing about it.
Well, I've told him it's not clear to me at that point in time what if anything, he's going to do about it.
Well, at any time, to your knowledge, did he do anything about it?
No.
You have told him that although you can't be completely certain, you think you are the father.
Yeah.
And he does nothing about that except to leave you to manage the situation.
Well, I can't speak to what he did, what he thought. I can only recall the conversation as best I can.
Or did he give you any advice about how to manage the situation?
No, no. I think he may have, it's only, my only impression would be that he, it was perhaps a shock for him, as needed to digest it, what I'd told him.
But there was no comeback for you from your managers as a result of making this disclosure?
No.
Was this conversation just the two of you?
Yes.
Did you tell Detective Chief Inspector Waite about the pregnancy?
No, I've got no recollection of that.
Detective Chief Inspector Waite has told the inquiry through his witness statement that you did.
Yes, I have read that, yeah.
Having read his statement, do you have any reason to doubt Detective Chief Inspector on that point?
No, not to be honest. No, I don't. I can't. No, I have no reason to doubt him.
Detective Inspector Barber is dead, isn't he?
Yes.
He was dead when you wrote your witness statement in 2022 for the inquiry.
Yes.
Detective Chief Inspector Waite is alive
Yes,
and was when you made your statement in 2022.
yes.
Is that the reason why you did not tell us that you had spoken to Detective Chief Inspector Waite?
No, no, that is not the case at all. No, it's not.
Was this a case of not wanting to grass on a fellow Special Branch officer?
No, no, it was not.
Do you have any recollection of speaking to Detective Chief Inspector Waite about the pregnancy at any time?
I don't have that recollection, no.
Did Detective Sergeant Couch come to know about the pregnancy?
Not to my knowledge.
Same question for Detective Sergeant HN 45.
No, not to my knowledge.
Very slightly later, Detective Sergeant HN 61 Chris Hyde.
No.
We know that your deployment continues. Was any consideration given by you to ending the deployment at that stage?
Not that I can recall.
Was any consideration given to the possibility that paternity might have to be recorded or might become an issue, or that child support might be sought, something of that nature which would lead to inquiries about your identity?
Yes, I'm sure thoughts regarding those issues would have been anticipated by me at some stage.
Can you recall when those thoughts crossed your mind?
I can't recall when.
And what were your conclusions?
Well, I think probably to find out, talk to see what Jackie, what she wanted to do in regard to registration and all these things, and to find a way of avoiding putting or being part of that registration process without going against Jackie and her own plans.
We'll come back to the registration of the birth in a short while. In the meantime, I'd like to come back to the question of paternity. If I've understood your evidence today, it's that you were at no stage ever seriously disputing paternity. Is that right?
Yes.
Does it follow that D.I. Barber's raising of the subject and the lack of absolute certainty was simply being used as an excuse for doing nothing?
Well, it's very hard for me to interpret that response, but that must be, it's possible. I don't know.
Well, what other explanations might there have been?
Just to perhaps, inform me that that the situation, or that my paternity might not be as certain as I thought it was.
Have you spoken to other undercover police officers about the fact that you fathered a child?
Not not at all during my deployment. I can't recall a time or with that when I did. I can't recall a time no.
Roger Pierce has written a book in which the main male character had fathered a child during the course of an undercover police deployment. Have you ever had a conversation with Roger Pierce about whether or not that was based on what you did?
No, I haven't ever had that discussion with Roger Pierce. I'm certain of that.
Did any of your contemporaries come to know that you had fathered a child undercover?
I think that Mike Chitty did become aware of it, but I think much later. I'm not sure. I'm not certain, but.
Was this through meeting TBS whilst you were deployed?
Oh no! TB.
Your son?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
How did he become aware then?
I can't recall.
Did John Dines meet TBS during the course of your deployment?
No. I can be confident that he never did, and I don't know. Could he have heard about it from someone in the animal rights world? That's a possibility, but I'm not aware of that.
Did your sexual relationship with Jackie continue after the birth of TBS?
I think for a short while, but not for very long.
Jackie's evidence that she finished the relationship in late 1986 or early 1987. Is that when your relationship came to an end?
The sexual relationship?
The emotional relationship?
No, no, I think, no, no, the period with when the period after my son's birth in October 85, onwards, I think our friendship continued. I think it was, there was no sexual relationship moving forward, but I think we, remained good friends. I was helping in ways I've described, and I think that continued, that friendship and the support that I was providing continued until round about September 87, when I received a letter from her, which I'll wait.
We'll come to that later.
Come to that later, yep, sorry.
It was Jackie's evidence that the emotional relationship continued until late 86, early 87, but that the sexual relationship continued even after that. She described to the inquiry that you would sometimes telephone to see whether she needed TBS babysitting so that she should go out. But if she said no, you might get a takeaway and go to her house and see her and TBS there. Did that happen?
That happened, but without the sexual relationship.
You've anticipated my next question. Her evidence was to the effect that those occasions would end up quite often with you falling into bed and having sex together. Are you quite sure that you never had sex with Jackie after the birth of TBS?
I am sure.
So would that be a convenient moment, and I fear I might have pushed the stenographer a little bit, to give the stenographer a break?
Of course. A quarter of an hour. Yeah, and you be right. Would you be content then to continue until we stop about 6 o'clock? Yeah, okay.
All
Quarter of an
rise.
hour.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lambert, to resume where we finished, you had just told the inquiry that you did not have sex with Jackie after the birth of TBS. Why did you stop, on your account, having sex with Jackie after the birth of TBS?
I'm, pretty clear that I was looking to ensure that Jackie understood fully that I was not intending to remain in any relationship with her that would be involve marriage or being partners, a relationship with commitment to being together. I think I wanted to maintain good, friendly relations with her and to help to the extent that I did with my son. And I hoped that she would be able to move on when she wanted to meet someone else with a view to perhaps to forming another relationship, perhaps a marriage.
Can we move now to the birth of TBS? It's right, isn't it, that at some point in the labour you arrived at the hospital?
Yes.
And it was a long labour?
I think it was, and I think I arrived at the latter stages.
And it was a hospital at which there was a registrar who could register the birth.
Well, I don't recall that.
Did you have a conversation with Jackie to the effect that she wanted TBS to have your name?
I don't recall that conversation, no.
Was there a time when the registrar was approaching and you made yourself scarce?
No, I honestly don't recall that.
And did you have an exchange of words with Jackie about registration?
I think, yes, I think subsequently there would have been discussions. I can vaguely remember that. I can't remember the detail of it.
Was it your position that you were doing everything possible to avoid the name Mark Robert Robinson going on to the birth certificate as TBS's father?
Well, I think that would have been my objective. I seem to recall that was the outcome.
Did you use words to the effect that Jackie was being difficult or fussy in trying to resist your attempts for TBS's father not to be named on the birth certificate?
I can't recall that conversation.
Might you have done so?
I don't think I would have done anything that would be confrontational or something that wasn't negotiable.
Was registration of the birth a subject that you broached with any of your managers?
No, not that I can recall.
Did they take any interest whatsoever in what was happening?
Not that I can recall.
The next question, it's very important that you answer it just yes or no. To your knowledge, does TBS have a godfather?
No.
I want to go now to Dagenham. Jackie's grandmother was a tenant of a council house in Dagenham, wasn't she?
Well, I wasn't aware of that detail, but what I was aware of would fit in with that. It's just a slightly different, not very different account that I remember.
What is the difference?
I think it was that Jackie told me that she would be able to move from the flat in Hackney to a house in Dagenham, and that, yes, it was a council house, and that I think my recollection is she said it was it had been her father's. Anyway, it was. Yes, it was more, not different, a family connection anyway, for sure.
And did you go with her to view this house?
Well, I can certainly recall going to the house on several occasions. Whether I went with her before she moved in, yeah, quite possibly. I wouldn't.
Did you do some work on the fencing at the property?
Yes, indeed. That I recall because it was one of a few occasions where I did fencing work, and I think 2 or 3 friends in the movement, I can't immediately think which ones, but activists, I guess, they came with me and helped put this back garden fence up, yeah.
And it was Jackie's intention that the 3 of you would live there?
I don't think that's right. At that point, which I can't immediately put a date on that, but no, I don't think that she harboured, certainly didn't communicate that wish. I think it was very much Jackie was going there on her own with our son, and that I would help in the ways that I did. Well, I don't want to run ahead.
How much time did you spend there in the result?
It was a reduction of time over. The time I spent there reduced over the period, whatever the date was that she moved in, I can't recall, but from there until, and let's say my last visit there in around some point in 87, there was a gradual reduction, but throughout that period I was a regular visitor, but I didn't visit as regularly as when she lived in Hackney.
Did you stay overnight?
I often did stay overnight.
And there was a cat.
The cat or cats I remember at Hackney. I'm not sure. There probably was a cat at Dagenham, but I can't recall.
I think it's common ground between you and Jackie that informally you made a financial contribution.
Yes.
Where did the money come from?
Well, I think it came from the money, the cash that Bob Robinson had, I guess I know that it obviously ultimately the money that Bob Robinson was seen to have, obviously it originates from my income, the Bob Lambert income.
Could you be clear about this? Is this money that's coming, that you are earning under the cover name Bob Robinson, or is this money that is coming from elsewhere?
Oh yes, I think it's elsewhere. I think that the money that, all I was wanting to say was that clearly Bob Robinson had to be seen to be earning money. That was the understanding that people had, but in reality, the work, the gardening work, the fencing work, the tree surgery work, whatever work that I did do as part of maintaining cover, that would not provide the funding that we're talking about here.
Where did the money come from?
Well, it would have originated from my Bob Lambert's income. Probably, most likely, the allowances that I claimed.
When you say allowances you claimed, does that mean that it was put through expenses?
I'm sorry?
Does that mean it was put through expenses?
Well, legitimate expenses of one kind or another. Income. I can't specify now all of it, but I was able to provide a regular sum of money to Jackie.
Could I have a yes or no answer, please? Was the money claimed on expenses?
I think some of it would, but I can't say more than that because really I can't recall, I can't recall the sort of day-to-day or the week-by-week situation. And
What was it claimed as?
well, no, the money that I gave to Jackie wasn't claimed as anything. I am receiving an income, some of which is pay, and then some of which might be allowances, which I might be paid separately.
What allowances?
I think there was an out of London allowance if I was travelling outside London. I think there was just a standard Metropolitan Police allowance that managers would claim and pass on to me.
Were you paid an allowance for your expenses as an undercover police officer?
Well, there would be some regular outgoings. They were characterised by managers under the name pubs and subs, which was pubs was publications and subs was subscriptions. So that, but under that heading would come, various. I mean, obviously petrol. There might be some expenditure to do other expenditure to do with vehicles where we would be required to produce a receipt for, say, an item for the van or something of that order.
And was the money to pay for TBS's maintenance put through pubs and subs?
No, I don't. No, I don't think it was. No, well, I know it wasn't. No.
Did your managers know that you were paying maintenance to TBS?
No, not
TBS's mother?
No.
Did they ask?
No.
Did they ever speak to you about the subject?
No.
Can we have up 722577? This is a Operation Hearn transcript. Page 16, halfway down, please. This is where you're talking to the Hearn investigators about it. To be consistent and to be the kind of person I was understood to be, I mean, again, not to labour it, but I guess, in Fieldham, as well as being, caring towards animals, like you are a caring person. And for better or for worse, I'm sorry, it wouldn't have seemed, credible if I'd failed to do that. You seem to have been giving the Hearn investigators the impression that you were paying maintenance in the way that you did to show those you were mixing with that you were a caring person? In other words, for reasons of maintaining your cover. Is that fair?
It's certainly fair, a fair account of what I said to Hearn, and it's true as far as it goes, but I think at that time I was probably reluctant to talk more openly about my actual feelings, about my responsibility towards my son. But yes, it's true that I, as always, whatever I was doing, I had to be consistent as far as that went, and I continued to maintain cover. But I mean, that is all that I could do as Bob Robinson, and it was all I ever wanted to do, which was to do the best that I could for Jackie, for whom I had the utmost respect and affection. I wanted to do the best that I thought I could in these circumstances, and to do the best that I could for my son in these circumstances. Back in 2013, I hadn't quite reached the point where I could be, even properly think about that. It's for years and years it was a heavy weight on my shoulders, but I kept it private.
Would you have paid maintenance if keeping up your cover appearances had not required it?
I certainly would have done. There's no question about that.
What was the amount of the maintenance that you paid to Jackie?
Well, I've said that the figure of £30 stuck in my mind. I said initially I couldn't be sure if it was £30 a week or £30 a month. Either way, it doesn't sound like a lot of money today, but I think Jackie thinks it. She talks, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, in her statement. I haven't read her transcript, but I think she talks about £50 and £50 a week. I recalled paying by cheque, and she, I think, recalls paying payments in cash. I think perhaps cash during the first period. I think once she's moved to Dagenham, and once perhaps we're not seeing each other quite so much, perhaps that might have been when I paid by cheque, although I think she doesn't recall that I did.
Did you consider the amount sufficient?
Well, yes, it would make a big difference whether it was a weekly payment or a monthly payment. So, it wasn't. It was something obviously that we would have spoken about. I think in addition to that regular payment, I think if, you know, I think she knew that if she had some particular expenditure that I would try and help, and I did help.
Within the means of Bob Robinson.
Well, that would have been obviously her understanding, but of course it would have originated from Bob Lambert's money.
Would it be fair to say that the arrangement led to Jackie bringing up TBS on far less than if she had known that you were really a police officer?
I think for a period, yes, but I'm not. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying this in any way in defence of what I did. I'm not. I'm not looking to excuse it, but if it's just some sort of mitigation or some context, but I genuinely believed in her ability to achieve everything that she has achieved in her life, and you know, as far as I could, I was looking to encourage her to move forward without me, because I knew that was going to be an inevitability.
Did you ever reflect on that discrepancy between what you were actually giving her and what she might be entitled to?
I probably did, and I wouldn't have been comfortable, I'm sure, but I can't recall.
But you did nothing about it.
Well, I did, I did what I could in a number of ways. I was supportive. I believe I was supportive throughout. I think I did the best I could, and of course, I look back now and I don't feel good about it on any level.
Did you have a bank account in your cover identity?
Yes, to the best of my recollection, I did. I think in some way, I think it related to, in cover terms, I think it related to my my cover employment in general terms, yeah.
Even as an anarchist?
I'm sorry?
Even as an anarchist?
Well, yes, indeed. Just as London Greenpeace had a bank account. I mean, everyone did. No, sorry, not everyone, of course, but as an individual, yeah, I think.
Can we move now, since you've said you felt bad about it, to what your reflections at the time of your 2013 interviews? Can we go, please, in Volume 1, sir, tab A, Roman numeral 2.8, the very last tab in that file. 722577, page 6. That's page 6 of the electronic pagination, sir, page 5 of the internal pagination. If we pick it up about halfway down the last paragraph. It was a difficult period. I was aware that I was not following the spirit of the sort of off the record guidance that I had. I wasn't properly following. I hadn't properly followed guidance about relationships generally. You know, there I am, you know, sort of early 1985. I mean, I hadn't been in the field that long. I've had 2 relationships and I could take stock. And I did take stock. Then I thought, you know, well, I have got emotionally involved in both cases. You know, sort of, you know, I hadn't shown the, you know, I don't know. I mean, it happened, you know, I could understand it on one level, but I was troubled. You know, I was troubled. Also, because up until that point, you know, I'd been faithful. Yeah, says the interviewing officer, you continue, husband, and I was a family man, and it didn't really feel good going home to my, you know, sort of long-established family environment. So I was troubled on both sides. And again, you know, I think, frankly, you know, I suppose if I'd been someone else, I would have been better at just either, you know, not getting involved full stop, or just, you know, having a casual, more of a casual fling, as I might say. So a number of questions I want to ask you arising from those answers. First of all, what you should have done is not get involved full stop with either CTS or Jackie, isn't it?
Yes.
Secondly, it is a considerable understatement to say that you hadn't followed the spirit of the guidance you was given.
Yes.
In terms of how you were feeling, and what you said about not, if you'd been a different person, am I to understand your evidence to Hearn that you are saying you were temperamentally unsuited to the role because you were not able to stop yourself when it came to sexual relationships with members of the opposite sex?
No, I honestly don't think that's what I was saying then, and what I would say now. What I would say now, or this afternoon, is what I said this morning when I was talking about my prior relationship. Now I know I shouldn't just rehearse what I said this morning again now. Well, I don't know what else. The point, I think I just got to emphasise the point of how I was feeling, not adequately described at all to Operation Hearn, but I was doing my best when I was being interviewed by Operation Hearn, when I was dealing with very deep emotional issues that had been kept submerged for a number of years. But I've come to better terms with all of that now, and I'm here to try and be as honest as I can be, and I'm not looking for excuses at all. I believe in what I was responsible for. Bob Robinson was, my alter ego, and I became too immersed in Bob Robinson's world, the central point is, as it was this morning, I think the central point is that I was following instructions, guidance that, to me, these instructions to form close friendships with activists that I met, that was absolutely crystal clear in my head, and I understood that if you had the targeting strategy that I had, that's what you needed. And both of these relationships arose from those close friendships that I was instructed to undertake. If I'd been someone else, this is what I'm probably getting at here, in 2013, if I had been an undercover officer who was only interested in a casual fling, or an undercover officer who perhaps hadn't been tasked in the way that I was to form such, essentially close relationships, necessarily emotional. I'm not sure you can have a close friendship without your emotions being involved. I did what I was asked to do. I did it in a way that, was obviously part of me. It was my creation. It was based on me, but it was a result of that, and I don't intend that as an excuse. I do think that those few psychiatrists that have looked into the pressures that undercover officers face, when they form these close relationships, whether they're sexual or not, the significance of the pressures that they're under. I do know that must have some relevance to my case and probably to others, but that's not a defence. And if I may, just while I'm here, again, as I said this morning, I do genuinely, sincerely apologise to Jackie. None of our differences in what we recollect from this period really matters much to me now, and I'm deeply sorry. I believe I did my best in the situation I found myself in, and of course I'm deeply sorry for my son, who has suffered in other ways.
Can I just remind you of those words we were discussing at the bottom of the second paragraph on the screen? I suppose if I'd been someone else, I would have been better at just either, not getting involved, full stop, or, having more of a casual fling, as I might say. The clear implication of that, isn't it, is you are saying you did not have the willpower to behave as you should have done.
Well,
Can I have a yes or a no to that, please?
well, no, I don't accept that.
Can we go, well, before we go, did you question at all at that point, 7 months into your deployment, 2 sexual relationships and a pregnancy, whether you should be continuing as an undercover police officer?
No, I can't honestly recall that, but I think if I'd had whatever reflections, private reflections I was having, no, I can't recall that specific, reflection, no.
Now, going back to the passages about you being troubled, I got emotionally involved in both cases, sort of, I hadn't shown, I don't know. I mean, it happened, I could understand on one level, but I was troubled, I was troubled also because up to that point, I'd been a faithful husband and I was a family man, and it didn't really feel good going home. You weren't so troubled that you did not go on to have sex with RLC, were you?
No,
You were not so troubled that you did not go on to form a long-term sexual relationship with Belinda Harvey, were you?
no,
Were you really that troubled at all in those early months of 1985 about what you were doing?
yes, yes, I'm sure.
Well,
Sure that I was.
Why didn't you simply avoid any further sexual contact with members of the public in your undercover identity?
Well, it's clear to me now that I shouldn't have done, but I continued to form close friendships, and on two subsequent occasions that also leads to a sexual relationship.
Can we turn in the same document to page 12, please? This is in the course of a long answer, Mr. Lambert, but I'm looking for a passage which is in the centre of the page, just above the centre, which starts towards the right-hand side of the text with the words, "I will just say that." Thank you.
Oh yeah, got that, yeah.
If we could have highlighted down that, thank you very much. I will just say that I did have contemporary field officers who, some of whom you had got involved to some degree with some women. And so I didn't feel under too much peer pressure. But I suppose, yes, there was some sense of just wanting Bob Robinson to be a real person. But I was acutely aware of the fact that I was getting involved romantically. I'll just stop there. Those words, I didn't feel under too much peer pressure.
But I, yeah.
Is that in fact at least part of the reason why, despite the position you found yourself in January 1985, you went on to deceive 2 more women sexually?
I'm not quite sure what the context is, what I'm talking about peer pressure, but
Lack of it, Mr. Lambert, lack of peer pressure.
yeah, but in regard to what specifically? The
implication is clear, isn't it? Sexual relationships. Okay. Yes, it's possible. I can't. I can put this question without reference to the text of your interviews at all. Quite simply, you weren't under any peer pressure to behave sexually during the course of your deployment, were you?
To peer pressure
to behave properly sexually undercover?
Well, okay. Yeah, I guess that's the case. Yeah.
You're obviously adverting there to some of your contemporary field officers having also got involved with women. Mindful of observing restriction orders, write down the answer if you need to. Which officers?
Yeah, I mean, very difficult to say when, when I got the impression even that that some contemporary field officers were involved to some degree with women. I mean, I can't immediately think of an individual field officer about whom I had clear knowledge about, this field officer is having a sexual relationship with someone. I think I